Okay. Ready? We're gonna get
Let's do it.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the BreakTime Podcast. You know what it is, people. We are back in action, out here being extra sexy, mostly because I got Mitch in here. I'm just the guy with the awesome shirts, but fuck it. Today I got a really special guest, my boy Mitch. I've known him for 2 years now.
2 years, a little more than that, yeah.
Plus that. I've actually met a lot of the dopest people these past 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But so I met you because we were in this, let's just be honest, we were in a network marketing company, and then we just kind of knew each other. We went on this road trip to Portland, Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
And so that you can really bond with people within a fucking 9-hour drive.
I totally forgot about that, actually.
Dude,
yeah, that's funny.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I still remember it because I was driving and I drove 9 hours out of the whole time.
Both ways, right?
Dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you ever have that thing where if I die from someone else's hands, I'm be so pissed.
Yeah.
I'm be so.
Yes, but if I kill myself,
if I kill
I'm
myself,
okay with
it's gonna be okay.
If I'm the one who fucked up, that's okay.
And if you have responsibility, or if I have responsibility, like driving someone, all right, I'm for sure gonna drive more careful, but I'm also gonna try to get there a lot faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I met Mitch a long time ago, and then we kind of just kept kicking it ever since. We're we hung out, we still kept in contact.
Communication, everything, yeah.
And I caught him again at the gym. I saw his buff ass. I'm like, I know that guy anywhere. And we just kind of struck up a conversation. We started talking, got deep in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Just started talking about energies and started talking about different the forces of what your thoughts can create and what can be manifested when you really just understand what energy is and how your energy can be used the way that you want it to.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just all an understanding of what you are, right? And I'm like, oh, this motherfucker, I gotta put him on the podcast right now. So that's a little quick recap. Mitch, if you don't mind, would you just please take us back into a little bit of how you grew up, your story, and then where you came from to where you are now.
All right, so it's a long journey, very complex, but I'll do my best to make a shortened version of it. So I was born in Chicago.
We're drinking too, by the way. P.S.
Oh yeah, it's a wine kind of a day.
It's a drink time podcast, bitches.
But yeah, I grew up. I was born in Chicago. I was raised in Ohio, and I had a very mentally, emotionally, and physically abusive childhood. And through the twists and turns of that whole journey, that sort of put me into a place where I realized I had to raise myself, sort of from a kid to an adult. So all of my guidance and all of my morals and values came from my view on the world and what I wanted to keep and what I wanted to discard. And there wasn't any really other mentorship or leadership or any other kind of influence in my life. So
how old were you when you were going through this?
Oh, this has been my whole life. Yeah. So I remember one of my earliest memories. I was either 1 or 2 years old, but I used to sleep in a crib. When my two other brothers,
you can remember that far back.
Yeah,
that's crazy, dude.
And my two other brothers, younger. I have one younger, one older. They both had their own rooms. I've always been the black sheep for some reason. Literally, but there was no reason for it to begin. It just kind of was the way it was. It was what I was born into. Yeah. Later in life, I found out what could be the reason for it. But we can get in for that later. But basically, I remember 1 or 2 years old, sleeping in a crib with no pillow, no blanket, nothing, just a pad, a blank mattress, and a crib.
Yeah, just
and
something
I'd
to
always
be
try to I'd always
cover
escape
you.
and try to leave my room, but I wasn't tall enough to grab the handle.
Okay.
But yeah,
that's
and then through the twists and turns of that, I had to raise myself, and also because I didn't really have brothers or family to ask questions about life in, I became extremely over analytical and an extreme overthinker of analyzing people, human psychology and how they interact with people, and just sort of how people go about their daily lives and present themselves as a person.
Like human behavior.
Yeah, human behavior. I was studying it like a computer.
Yeah.
So I gained a lot of data on how people act and the reasons behind why people make the decisions they do, but also at the same time, I wasn't getting trained on really how to interact with people on a social level without being very anxious and over analytical. Like I'd always be
You'd overthink your conversation
about,
too much.
Like, what am I going to say next, what this means, and
right.
what does this person mean by this, and just thinking of millions of possibilities of how conversations could go and how situations could go, and always trying to control everything. So I became a complete control freak, and what that might have done is I had OCD for a couple years when I was a teenager, and I gave it to myself, and then I unwinded it myself as well. So that's why I have a 2 tattooed on my arm. I got low battery on the phone, but I used to do everything in even numbers. So I used to just be really trapped up in that, but then I got myself out of it. And then I'd say around 15, 16, I got really heavily involved in like media production, like videography, making movies. I wanted to be a music video director. That was like my dream. I've always had a natural talent.
What kind of music?
Any kind of music. It was more just the video aspect. I've always just been really naturally inclined to thinking of ideas, producing it, and just making things come to life.
Kind of like directing it.
The whole shebang.
Yeah.
And then I moved when I turned 18, cut all ties, because I grew up in Ohio. Ohio, I'm sorry, but it's chock full of people that like to talk a lot of talk, but don't walk a lot of walk.
Okay.
So nothing was getting done.
That's everywhere, to be honest with you.
But I always growing up, I'm like, I need to go where the palm trees are at, because that's where people are making moves, and I want to make big picture moves. I've always seen myself as a world-renowned something in some area. Whatever it is, I know I'm going to be big in that thing. And the place, location-wise, where I was at, was just not cutting it. So when I was 18, I went to UNLV as a college, was a film student, switched my major after my first semester. I also joined a fraternity in my first semester, which is great. The networking power from that is phenomenal. And also the fraternity that I am still currently in, I'm an alumni, but it was definitely not heavily focused on partying and drinking and doing dumb activities.
It wasn't?
No, that was like a secondary bonus prize.
Okay.
Just because we were always top tier, like #1 fraternity on campus.
Okay.
But we always focused on brotherhood, connection, secrecy, and grades first in sports. So and also charity events, philanthropic events. I mean, we were always #1 or 2 in grades, #1 or 2 in philanthropic raising and charity and fundraising, all that kind of good stuff. Getting back to the community. Dude. One of our alumni, he runs this thing called the Boys and Girls Club here in Vegas, where we take kids who don't have fathers, don't have mothers, and we become like their parents and their mentors for the day. We hang out with them, play games, all that kind of cool stuff.
How old were the kids that you would like hang out with?
I say below like 10.
Below 10?
Yeah, probably like 6 to 10-ish.
I always thought about doing that, like, I guess, because I can actually relate a lot of it to it, and like how you grew up, because, not saying that I grew up by myself, because I didn't really, but in a different sense I did. I was like the oldest of, now it's 6, right? Like my parents split, and then my dad remarried. He made like he married my stepmom. She already had a kid, and then they had 2 more kids after that.
Okay.
So 3 at first,
and how old is the
3
youngest?
more. He's about to be 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So dude. To me, it's crazy because I'm thinking like, you could have been my kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know you were still doing that at that age. I told him like, I'm gonna get you a TV, bro. Like, you gotta. He already has a TV, and I'm like, I'm gonna get you like Showtime, whatever you need. Like, you're too old. But I grew up by myself majority, because me and my second older brother or younger brother, we're 5.5 years apart, right? So I was actually telling him this story, or we were talking about it like maybe fairly recent ago, and he said like, well, I feel like I grew up with you, and like, that's the difference. You grew up with me, but I didn't grow up with you. You know what I mean? Like, I had 5.5 years of my own story by myself without you before you came into the picture, and then once you did, like, you were a baby. What am I going to do? Kick it with a baby? Yeah. You know, like, I'm 5 and I'm going to try to, like, now I'm an active toddler. Like, I can't hang out or, like, mess around and, like, you know, do toddler things with a baby. So I did feel like I grew up by myself. Then parents split. So, like, same thing. Like, they were doing their own things. As adults, you end up doing your own thing when you split. I get it. But so I was like, oh, well, what the fuck do I do? Yeah. You know what I mean? And yeah, eventually I just kind of like learned human behavior. I was really interested, like, okay, how did things play out? And I would also overanalyze all the conversations. I think I got too nerdy for my own self. You know, like, and I'm naturally like a little bit more. That's my style, and I get that now. I'm kind of like embrace it. And I just like, I embraced it very well. You know what I mean? But I did think like, how is this conversation going? Where do I take it? And like, what are they trying to say? So
what do they mean by this?
Yeah. Especially
basic
when
things.
like I'm not gonna lie. So I've told this on the podcast a couple times. Like I used to get into drugs. I used to get into like, the whole party scene and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I would get high and I'd be even more in my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they would say any little thing. And I'm like, but what does that mean? Like, are you coming at me or like, are we? Was there a deeper meaning to it?
Yeah.
And then like after a while I just had to get back and like, dude, you're just overthinking it. Just relax. You know what I mean? Just like stop focusing so much on everyone else and how you think they think about you.
Yeah.
And in reality, just kind of like be at peace with yourself. You know what I mean? So it took me a long ass time to kind of.
Do you know what I've found to be the root cause of that? It's really just a personal self-image issue. And it's because if you don't know who you truly are, other people's opinions and validations, they matter to you.
They affect you,
But if you know who you are, like how I am right now, like I fucking love myself to the core, the trials and tribulations, the bad things, the good things, everything that makes me me. So for the longest time, I've never felt the feeling of embarrassed. I can't even remember what being embarrassed feels like.
Yeah.
Because what is embarrassment? It means you think that someone else thinks something that goes against your self-image, and that devalidates your self-image.
From what
so
you
your
think.
ego structure will try to protect it because that's its job.
Yeah,
it's
you're
to
right.
physically and also, I guess, verbally and emotionally protect what you think you are, who you are,
your image,
how you act, how you look, how you feel, how you present yourself, all those things. So if you don't know who you are yet, and you're trying to figure it out, which all kids are.
And I think, some people are still trying to figure themselves out now.
You're going to be overthinking a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest step to overcome all that is really just diving into yourself, finding out who you are, your passions, your moral fortitude, the things about yourself, what makes you you, your personality that creates your personal reality, and just being okay with that and accepting it. Also paired with a mindset to grow it and better it at least 1% better every single day. And when you're on that pathway, things that come into your life that go against your pathway that you set yourself down, it's not going to throw you off course because you know it has nothing to do with you. Like me, I live in a way where I try to leave every place that I go to better than it was before I got there. And I live by the platinum rule. Treat other people better than you could want to be treated.
Okay.
So if I have those mindsets,
quick question.
Yeah.
You said platinum rule.
Yeah.
Like platinum is a level above golden rule.
Yeah.
Right. Did you came up with them yourself?
Oh, I think I heard that from someone else. Maybe John C. Maxwell or Paul Sika or
because that's pretty good.
Brown.
I like how you said that.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember I heard it from somewhere. But when I hear things like that, I take it. I take it, and that's my new thing now.
Right.
But yeah, like if you live in that way, and someone comes up and says like, "Oh, you have such a big ego," or "You're very cocky," or "You're a narcissist,"
right,
and
whatever.
You're not those things because there's just no way you could. If they actually knew you, there's no way they'd ever say that.
Right.
Then those opinions and words
they don't matter.
They're not going to affect you because other people's opinions are none of your business. It has no value to you.
And that's like a biggest thing that I feel like it takes us a long time to kind of get to, especially when you're young.
Oh, super long time. Yeah.
And I get it too. Like here, I'm still young, and I consider myself young. I've gone through a lot throughout my 24 years of life.
Yeah.
But it's like here, when I was going through my shithole of like from 19 to 22, 20 something, right? I didn't know what the fuck, like, just kind of how you said, I didn't really know what direction I wanted my life to go.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like here, I feel like everyone's always trying to find it right away.
Yeah.
Or within the next couple of days or within the week or whatever.
It's an expectation.
Dude, it takes so long.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes so long because like life, it's working for you, but it's on its own time, not on your time. You know what I mean? And like, as long as, this is how I feel about it now. Like, as long as I know what I do want, or as long as I start looking for it, right? Like, let's say I'm looking for opportunity, right? But I don't know where to start yet. I just kind of keep it in my mind, like, okay, whatever it is, I'm just going to be open to opportunity, whether it's something that I expected or not.
Yes.
Right. But I'm going to be open, you know, and eventually something kind of starts to come along, like the pieces start to align, and you like right timing, right place, whatever, but you get struck with an idea or you get a conversation that makes you change your perspective a little bit, and I'm like, you get that aha moment. I'm like, you know what, I think maybe this is where I want to go, or I think this is what I would want to do, you know what I mean? But I've never stuck to the feeling of like I'm tied to this one thing. You know, like before this we were talking about like how you can be multiple things. You can have multiple passions and like
versions of yourself.
Yeah. And I feel like especially right now in society, everyone's getting so butthurt about like if you're not this one thing, then like you're fake. Or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, but what does that mean to you? Like I feel like a lot of it comes from a personal thing. Like
I think it means that they want to do that kind of thing themselves, but they see you doing it and they get jealous and envious. They try to tear you down. Yeah. Because everyone's always trying to lift themselves up, or just feel significant and validated. But the wrong way to go about it is by tearing other people down to your level. When in all reality, you need to bring yourself up and then other people up with you, and that's how you become fulfilled.
I think that's the default way for people because it seems like the easiest, right? And like, oh, I don't know how to reach my full potential, so let me bring you down. You know what I mean?
Just think about this: like, what's easier and what's quicker, building a skyscraper or tearing it down?
It's easier tearing it down.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
You can tear it down in a matter of 10 to 15 seconds, but it takes years upon years to build it up. So that's why people usually go to that, because humans tend to walk the easier path because it's more comfortable. Yeah. Because your ego structure will do its best to protect the comfortability of what it's already known. Right. Because the human brain can only pull from reference experiences, and it doesn't have knowledge of the higher planes where you existed before you sent yourself down here to the Earth reality system. But your human brain only exists in the Earth reality system, so only has data from its own experiences. So you literally, so like, I've always had this thought, like, is anything actually original? I think things that might be channeled through you can be original, but if it's just coming from your brain literally only holds data from things it has experienced in past events. Right. So sure, you can pull a bunch of different events together and make a new matrix, which becomes a new thing, and that can be called original, but it is still made up of individual parts that were not originally conceived by you.
It's all kind of like a string. Like all these strings kind of start to come together, and they maybe will help you like build a bridge to something new, like to a new idea, but it was still those individual strings that got you to that.
Yeah. And there's something you said earlier that I half agree with. So it was about going with life and how you can sort of take the wheel in a sense, but also at the same time, life is kind of happening to you or at you in some sense.
No, I think it's happening for you.
For you.
But if
it's always happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think like if people are not self-aware, then it is happening to you, or at least in your perspective. Yes. You know, because you're not taking hold of the wheel. Yeah. You know, you're just thinking that like you're just passing by and you're maybe looking through the windshield and like, oh yeah, this is the new place that we're at. No, it's not that. You know, it's at the, and this is where I think a lot of personal responsibility comes from. You know, I mix a lot of the spiritual with the more, I guess, linear way of thinking. Like,
that's what I think needs to happen. We're spiritual beings living a physical experience in what we perceive as linear time. Just because we're in this density.
And so to that, I'm thinking like, okay, I can't ignore both, but I can be, it's my responsibility to find a way how to blend them together.
Yeah. Be aware of what's happening out there. It's my belief that your external reality is a projection of your internal state, and then collectively we all project this world that we literally walk inside of as a collective. And the more, I guess, focus, because where focus goes, energy flows. So where the more focus is on one certain thing, that's the way the world goes. So for instance, right now at the time of this podcast, the world is going through a complete theater play called the COVID pandemic, where different organizations that like to control people's mindsets, because when your mind is controlled, your internal state is controlled, which then produces the external reality we all walk in to their degree.
And it's all fear, by the way.
It's all fear-based.
P.S. It's all fear-based.
False evidence appearing real. I know 100+ doctors that can back me up that this whole COVID stuff is a big majority of it is all hype, fake numbers, and it's not as prevalent as the people who are making it out to be is actually out to be. And and what that is, it's just fear energy controlling people. Because if you look at the scale of consciousness, where you can literally electromagnetically measure the vibrational frequency of everything, emotions, music tracks, people, places, movies, everything. When you measure emotions like fear, it's at the bottom of the scale. But things like joy, peace, love, enlightenment, pure Tao, it's way higher. So they know these things. And then that's also why they push other substances onto you that drag you down to those locations. Because you can, like courage resonates at 250. So when you drink
250
alcohol,
what?
Megahertz.
Okay.
So when you, I believe it's megahertz. Don't quote me on that, but it's an electromagnetic measurement, and I believe it should be megahertz. But 250 is courage. So when you drink alcohol, you literally drag yourself down to a 250, or if you're lower, up to 250, because it's called liquid courage. So you literally take on the vibration of what that substance is. But if you consume something like psilocybin, you're vibrating at around like 500 or 600 something. You're in the joy and enlightenment stage, and that's why people who dive into those substances, they actually expand their consciousness, create new neurons, connect new neurological pathways, and literally become smarter as they experience an alternate and enhanced state of consciousness.
Because you're also like, and it sounds, here, I know this is where I'm going to lose a lot of people. But this is actually where you start to like basically create new bridges in your brain. You know what I mean? Like that, and that's not a bad thing. It just means it's just change. That's really all it is. It's just change in this very simple form.
It's scientifically provable growth. The more neurons you have in your brain and in your body, the more ability you have to conceive higher level thoughts, which will in turn make your life better.
Because I put things in a very simple perspective to me. You say neurons, and I just think bridges, right? And that's a simple picture that it's like, okay, cool, more bridges, that means more access.
More connecting.
Boom. How hard is that? But like sometimes people just, I think even when I used to overthink, I feel like people underthink. You know what I mean? And so that's where we kind of like would mix it up. But here, to your point.
Should I finish my story, my intro?
Yeah. Go for it. My bad.
Okay. We sort of got sidetracked, but I guess just to finish it up, I came out to Las Vegas, was a film student, and then I got heavily involved into fitness, like full time.
As you can see,
became a bodybuilder. Became a bodybuilder in 2013. 1 year after men's physique became a new category in the NPC league. I did 12 shows in that league for 5 years. Went to nationals all 5 years, USA's, Miami's, all that kind of stuff. Won a couple shows, got some. When you win a show, you get a medieval weapon, like a full sword, like a battle axe. So I got some swords hanging on my wall, and a whole bunch of trophies and stuff. Never turned pro, and that was my last goal. I never had an actual goal that mattered to me about being world champion or anything like that, just because it didn't really seem my passion really wasn't there for it. But I switched to the WBFF league, turned pro my first show, and that was 6 months into my first entrepreneurship venture in e-commerce, which we were both in the same organization. And after that, I completely retired from it because I completed my last goal, got my pro card, left it, did the e-commerce business till January of 2020, and it just wasn't producing the things that I knew I deserved. So I knew I deserved a lot more in my physical reality, so I set out to make those things happen.
You need more results.
I need more results.
And that's it.
I knew I was killing it. I was doing all the steps, but things weren't happening. So I just realized, like, oh, fuck, dude, I'm in the wrong vehicle. I thought I was in the right. I was in the right one. I really thought this was the car for me. Nope, not it. Lambo pulled up next to me and said, "Hey, you want to get in and try this out?" And I said, "Fuck it, let's be spontaneous and make a complete change." Started working with like different like media people, YouTubers, more editing and back end media and video work, and then I started doing that, and then drop shipping back in March. Drop shipping fucking blew up for me. Made me basically financially free. I mean, I am financially free, which is awesome. Obviously, I'm going to keep growing that up to a higher point where I can make, 10, 11 figures, trillions and zillions of dollars because money makes things happen. And if you want to make positive things happen in this world, like clean up the ocean, revitalize the environment like me, it's going to take a lot of capital to get there. So that's what I'm currently doing right now. And then also right now doing like private events, experiences for people who come into Las Vegas. We have the Experience LV, where we take people who want to blow tons of racks at clubs and casinos but can't because they're not open. And we do things like we make their own movie for them, and they get to be the main character. We do something called the Gemini package, where you get to face yourself as like a bad character. You get to shoot rocket launchers, drive slingshots and tanks and stuff. I saw that too.
He had fire,
flamethrowers, AR-15s, like doing live rounds and stuff like that. Really, really cool stuff.
Okay.
And now I've recently been connected with the correct people and the correct amount of people to give me the confidence to start singing, making my music finally. I have a big background in dance, can start making dance videos. Also, I've been in the adult industry for about 5 years now, full production and performer. I also manage people's OnlyFans accounts, and also being partnered with a new company called Underfans, where we sell the underwear of content creators to their fans. Also, another company called True Fans, which is a private subscription-based company where it's no adult industry stuff and all wholesome things. So if you have like a charity or a fundraiser, or you're a yoga instructor or a personal trainer, and you want to have a private subscription base, you can do True Fans. So basically, I'm just opening up as many avenues possible to generate the most amount of total income to then move forward on the projects like the Clean Water Project, revitalizing the environment, turning the world mostly plant-based to where we don't have to slay 50 to 60 billion animals per year for human consumption when we just don't need that. Get off of fossil fuels. We've had 0 point energy in the application of it since 1928. For
oil is going down. Fuck oil. It lost me a lot of money.
The petrodollar is awful. We don't need coal. We don't need oil. We don't need roadways, airplanes, rockets, trains. It's all caveman technology. Everybody still drives a car with a modified version of an 1888 Mercedes combustion engine. You're literally driving something from 150 almost years ago.
Decades ago.
Yeah, so it's laughable, and these are all the things I want to change. So right now, I'm just still staying on my mindset to where I'm going to do my best to not waste my time in activities that take me Mach 5 nowhere, and actually do things that are significant for the projects I want to do, and have this impact that I want to make. Because the biggest, I guess, life goals for me is being a massive positive impact player on this planet, to where when I pass and I leave my legacy here, people can think of my name and just have a simple thought of, that guy did good things.
Yes.
That's it. He did good things.
That's it. Because, and bro, I can so fucking relate to that, like 100%. Like, I don't know what it is about and I have a really good friend of mine, Richie, too. He's also in the same mindset too. Like, I don't know what it is about us that just like our souls are just trying to find a way on how we can make an impact on this earth. It's like such a weird calling to me. And I always remember, like,
you're a starseed.
I always remember that thought that Steve Jobs put out, where he says, like, I just want to make my little dent in the universe, right? And it puts such a weird perspective to me, or like, not weird, actually, like a beautiful perspective to me. Even when I was young, I said, like, I just want to build my own little thing on this world. I don't care if it's huge. It doesn't have to be like the biggest thing. But I just want to, before I die.
Something that's significant to me.
That
I can
like,
be proud of.
See that little piece? Like, that's something that I created. And it helped. It was a good impact on it. You know, on this world. And like, same thing to what you were saying. Like, I feel a lot of people, and I hope you can, like, I know you can relate. Whereas we want to do good, but it takes money to do that. Especially right now, like here, being very self-aware. In the point in time where we're at now, like in society where we're at now, whether you like it or hate it, like, this is what it is. You know what I mean? So if you want to do good, it's going to take some money. It's going to take income, capital, and
you want to, we're all playing.
Right. And if you want to, like, help clean the ocean, this is what I'm asking people. Like, who the fuck do you think is going to do this? You know, you think you're going to find people and just, like, it's going to be kumbaya, like find a pamphlet and, like, oh yeah, you want to help us save the ocean? Everyone's going to say yes. But, like, almost no one goes in and puts the effort. You know what I mean?
It's because, I not to cut you off, but I believe that's due to the fact that the systems of control have created a lifestyle that people think they need to participate in order to participate in life. And what that usually means is the standardized system of go to school, get good grades, to get a good job, to buy a house that you can't afford and blow all your money on a wedding and a honeymoon, and now you're in massive amounts of debt, climbing out of this hole, and they call them debt slaves.
And it's all debt too.
Yeah.
Like here, something that a lot of people don't talk about. It's like they just changed the word slaves from workers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the people that own the land and the big, like, not to get all crazy on you guys, but I did my research. You know what I mean? Like I went back and I looked at history. History shows that back in the day, the plantation owners, like the people that owned these big pieces of land or like these big companies, they had people work for them, pennies on the dollar to what they were making themselves, right? And they got to create basically everything else in the world. So it's only like two handfuls of people that are participating in like what's going on, and everyone else is just kind of like pawns. You know? And it sounds fucked up
like
to
six
say that.
companies own like 90% of media. That's a prime example right there.
And then same thing. Okay, going back to what we were talking about, like the fear thing with this whole pandemic. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but it's the CDC put out the real numbers that only 6% of the people that were like affected by the coronavirus actually died from this virus.
Just that in and of itself.
Right? Not from any sub thing. Yeah, exactly.
And of that 94%, I think it's either 60 or 75% of those people were over the age of 75. And then all those people, or maybe it's of that percentage, had already two pre-existing either fatal or near fatal diseases. So, and people want to say if COVID never happened, those people never would have died. Something else could have came in and killed them.
Yeah, because people are
like if you were to have two, if you're over the age of 75 and you're suffering from two major fatal or nearly fatal diseases, you're on the edge.
Or not just
and
that,
you
like
say it's
you get
COVID
sick.
that was the breaking point, or it could have been a
The
burger in
flu,
the front,
like,
a steak gave you a heart attack, or something simple like heat exhaustion because you got your car broke down somewhere. Like it can be simple things like that.
And like I always think this sounds insensitive when some people hear it. It's like, but people pass away. Yeah, it's kind of like how life is, you know.
It's a part of life.
But it is a part of life.
People think it's the end of life because that's what their human brain thinks. Because their human brain, like I said earlier in the podcast, didn't exist in the higher plane where your consciousness existed before you broke off a little piece of it, threw it into a little human costume to rent out for 100 or so years, and then rid that costume and then take that data you learned from that life experience and soak it back up to your original higher self. So there was this article that I would remember reading, and then there was this like other video attached to it, right? And so it was talking about back in the day before. So it was this, take it with a grain of salt, right? But it was this article where it talked about like through research, right, and through like geological studies of the sea ocean and the coral reefs, right, how the island of Atlantis, like where it used to reside, right, now like 13,000 years ago.
Now, so the people there, like it was talking about like we as people, or we as beings, you know, physical beings, used to be able to communicate with just feelings and like
telepathy. That's our next stage in evolution,
right? So we were able to communicate with emotions, with like just looks, to where if we talked or if we wrote, that was primitive. You know, and it's super true, because here's where I know that it's true. The part that in your brain that's connected to language and that's actually connected to feelings are not attached, right? So when you're trying to describe how you're feeling and you try to put it into words, that's
two different parts of the brain.
So incredibly difficult because again, they're not attached, you know what I mean? Especially for guys, for us, like going through something, how do you describe it? No one trained us, you know. I talked about this before, but so with that in mind, that's where we really came from. That was like, it just gives more value and more weight to the fact that like we're beings of energy, and we're beings that like are so much more than where we are now. You know what I mean? To think that like we've fallen so low and that we can be so easily manipulated by things like fear, right? And things like false news. Like it really is. You know what I mean? And people are going through this mass hysteria and then just kind of like following whatever they think is being shown by the media. Dude, like this is what I ask people to do. Like, do you know who's funding the media? And also, when the
George
CDC,
Soros.
when the CDC put out their information, do you know who funds the CDC?
Yeah.
Is the CDC is self-funded. It's not funded by the same people that control the media.
Yeah.
You know, so they're allowed to put in information that it's not like that they want to, or that's real. You know what I mean?
So we've been told.
We've been told.
Because through my life experiences, I've just noticed that there's a lot of almost nothing in this life is transparent and seems to be what it is. So if there's ever money involved, there's different forms of intention involved
Behind it, yeah.
Yeah, and also back to what you said, humans understand intention and emotion more than words. So when we evolve into telepathy, we will communicate through intentions and emotions, which will sort of dissolve the area of between truth and lies. And humans are great at lying.
Right. And we can tell when, like, how people say, like, you know, that vibe.
Yeah,
you know, that it became a little bit more mainstream, like, last year.
I'm a human lie detector. I can tell when people are lying to me through
vibes
text
are real,
messages.
right? Vibes are fucking real.
All
and then
points in space and time are connected, and everything talks to each other. It's a big interconnected web of energy.
So it goes, again, it puts more weight to the fact, like, you can say one thing, and you can even rehearse it. You could say it so well that, like, the right words are being placed, but when your vibe is like not the same, you always get that hunch. And girls have a better intuition than guys. Yeah,
because you have neurons in other places than your brain. In case you guys didn't know that, you actually have more neurons that are more powerful in your heart center. The toroidal field, the electromagnetic field.
There's more electricity going through your heart, than anything else.
100 times stronger than one around your brain. So the classic saying, if you're in your head, you're dead, it's true because you're working at 1% capacity. And if you guys know about Dr. Joe Dispenza, he preaches brain and heart coherence, is where your visualizations for the future you're trying to manifest coincide and are synchronized with the emotions of that event. So then you're literally in the state of the version of yourself who has already been in the life of your manifestation. So if you're trying to create a $10 million a year income, what would the version of yourself be thinking, feeling, and acting like 6 months after they had already manifested that goal? They'd probably be very relaxed. Other people's opinions wouldn't matter to them. They wouldn't be driving fast on the road. They wouldn't get frantic when people cut them off for losing them time, or if they get caught at a red light. All these things would change, and if you take that version upon yourself and you start to be like that, because your internal state creates the external reality, it's the sum total of what you think, feel, and act, your external reality will now start to reflect that internal state. And now, quantum mechanically, your body is physically vibrating in the frequency of a future event before you have physically gotten there. So your body can literally exist in a state, in a reality totally that you're not even in yet.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that's how I became a bodybuilder. I started off as top 3 shortest kid in the grade, skinniest kid ever. When I was a freshman in high school, I weighed 92 pounds, okay? I was the 103-pound wrestler, and I weighed 92.
That's
2 pounds crazy. Above the weight minimum. Almost not allowed to compete.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
Now I'm like 180-ish. Nearly similar height. My genetics do not call for me to look like this, but if you see my parents, if you see my dad, they're both shorter than me, they're both smaller, and there's just nothing in my handbook that says you should be looking like this. But because I decided I wanted to look like this, that's the true version of me, and that's what I'm going to feel most comfortable being inside of that body and looking back at it. I'm going to decide I'm not going to let anything get in my way, and I'm going to make that reality. So now my thoughts, my spoken words to myself, my intentions and my actions synced up with the future version of myself.
They're all aligned.
That already physically resonated with that actual body, with that actual person.
In other words, self-image.
Exactly.
That you already
self-image
created for yourself.
I created a new self-image, and I instilled that and took upon that role before that role needed to be played. And this has to do with also how you grow your business. You don't. It's like dressing for the job you want, being the kind of person that you want to be before you're actually that person. There's no
look good.
There's no
feel good.
Yeah,
do good.
There's no rule in life that says something has to happen first, and then you're allowed to feel those emotions of that thing.
Right.
You can feel those emotions before that thing happens, and it will make that thing happen way faster.
Absolutely.
Way faster.
Yep.
Because you look up Dr. Emoto's study, I think it's 1976, where spoken words and thoughts change the molecular structure of water molecules. Your body and your muscles are 75 to 80% water. There's water in the air, there's water in plants. Water is everywhere. We live on a water planet.
And it's it conducts the most electricity. It's reactive to energy.
Absolutely.
Right, exactly.
So if you can literally change the molecular structure of your physical reality, water, air, plants in your body, why, and you know this knowledge, why would you not do it?
Right.
Why would you let other things in your external reality force you to react to those things? That's the third density, 3D mindset, left brain, right brain, good, bad, light, dark, positive, negative, left, right, all those kinds of things, right and wrong. Something happens to you, you react to it. So now the total of yourself, the sum product, your external reality, which you create from your internal state, is now controlling your internal state because you're reacting to it. You're reacting to something that you originally created, but because you're unaware of that, you don't understand that that's what you make. You're making the reality that you walk through. It's called the observer effect. If you look at the model of an atom, there isn't an electron spinning around the nucleus. That's not how it acts. There's an electron cloud, and it exists as a quantum wave of energy. And it only collapses into a particle specific to the consciousness of the observer. It's called the observer effect.
Right.
So if you're a positive observer, things will collapse into a positive particle. That's why a public speaker can speak to a crowd of 1,000 people, and that message, the same exact order of the words, the same sentence, can be heard in 1,000 different ways and perceived in 1,000 different ways.
But that energy can still be positive.
It's still be positive, but someone's own filtration and social conditioning of their own ego structure and self-image can take that positive word set and energy, it goes through the filter of themselves, and now it becomes negative. Because they're consciously observing everything as negative. If they go to like a business seminar, they're going to think things like, there's no way that's true. There's only a couple of rich people in this. He's just here to scam people out of their money. And that's the experience you will get. But if you're people like us and you're like, there's potential in this. If I do the steps that are bestowed upon me, that are told, you take steps 1, 2, 3 through 80, and that's what completes the set and actually produces the results for you. We're gonna go for that with an optimistic mindset, decrease the expectations of how things can or should turn out, so then it leaves the widest open oasis for possibilities to then in turn manifest instead of locking yourself into a hallway. And then that's the life that we live. Everything in life is a choice. Everything in life you choose to be alive. You choose that your brain activates your heart and your lungs to breathe and pump blood automatically. These are choices. When I had my near-death experience, and I came to a fork in the road where I could choose to clock out eternally, or I could choose to stay.
Tell me about the near-death experience. Tell me like how you got into this, right? And to really just to stop you for a quick minute, what you just said, it's kind of like, here, I'll put it into very simple forms for like people to, it's more easy to swallow. A loser just needs to see another loser to think negatively or to think it's not possible. A winner just needs to see one winner to know like it is possible. Right? So but we still have that choice to choose like who do you want to be? Do you want to play as a winner or do you want to play as a loser? Right? And same thing like how Will Smith said, and then same the Cosmo said, right? He who thinks he can and he who thinks he can't are both usually right.
They're both true.
So it's who do you want to play as, right? Do you want to play as a winner? Do you want to play as a loser? It's still your choice. It's still our choice to embody that person. And then whichever choice you choose, you're usually going to be right. You know what I mean? But tell me about that near-death experience.
So this was
what happened?
So this was like a really crazy experience. So I label it as a near-death experience. That's how it physically felt to me. Now, is it possible that that's actually not what happened? Yes, but that's how it physically felt to me.
Right.
It was also paired with a massive layer of my spiritual awakening, because that comes in layers of itself. And also, I don't like the term ego death, because if your ego actually dies, your body dies with it. So a big part of the ego, I don't want to say died, but the role that it was once filling,
It shifted.
I took that role away from it.
Okay.
And now it is no longer playing out those roles that it should not have been in the past.
What role did it play?
The roles of like searching into my external reality to fulfill my internal state.
Okay.
So that was one of the biggest lessons that I was being taught through that experience, was that all the happiness and things you're trying to bring into your life can be created by yourself.
Yeah,
And you
thinking
don't need-
that you're going to find happiness
and
in the
you
external.
don't need to find happiness in the external through things like raving, partying, drug use, all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll of life. It doesn't need to happen. So I was at a...
And we all fall through it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm not going to lie. Like, I fell through it too.
That's
like,
the human experience.
Yeah, it's the human experience.
I think is the literal point of having a human experience. It's like the difficult level in a video game.
Mm-hmm.
You don't remember that you're this eternal, multi-dimensional, divine being that has God consciousness and understands the laws of the universe purposely. So then you can fuck up a whole bunch while you're here, learn a bunch of lessons from this specifically created perspective, to where you're inside of this human body and you're analyzing data through the interface, aka your brain, that has a subconscious, something that's below the consciousness, that runs 9 out of every 10 thoughts, 90% of your life.
And it's 90% stronger than your conscious brain.
Yeah.
Your conscious brain is only so strong.
Yeah.
Listen, because if it was so strong, if it really like dominated like your whole existence, then fuck it, we'd all be successful.
Yeah, we all
because we all want it. You know, we all like, oh yeah, I want to make $500,000 next week. You did it.
You do it, yeah.
Right. Because
you
it's
can make
that,
$3 million. Like it'd be easy.
But it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
Unconscious is really like that dominant.
Yeah.
And I was learning this in Psycho-Cybernetics. Like, you just
totally
totally
right
brought me. Yes?
Yeah.
Such a dope book,
Yeah.
bro. Such a fucking dope book. I honestly think, like, it changed a lot of my perspective, especially with the unconscious. But this is where I came up with the saying, like, I used to think, like, I gotta control my subconscious. I gotta control it. And that word control is so specific, like as if I'm trying to, like, dominate this beast, which it's not, you know? It's a part of me. Yeah. So I switched it to, I have to master my subconscious. Like, I'm not controlling it. I just master what it is, you know? And I just work with it, not make it work for me.
Yeah, that's what I say. I walk alongside my ego, and we work in tandem together.
Yeah, because it's a part of you.
It's a part of you, and you need it.
Yeah, exactly.
Your ego structure, like when you're walking along a cliffside, your ego is what tells you, don't walk too close. Yeah. Because you're going to die. You're going to hurt yourself.
It wants to take care of you.
Yeah, that's why people are born with a natural fear of heights, because your ego structure protecting the body. Because if the body dies, the ego dies. Right. And the ego's not going to let you die. Yeah. And back to what you said, control. Why that's such a counterproductive thing is because everything in this universe is energy, and every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you try to control your negative thoughts, that's you taking energy, focusing on something negative,
and focusing on
it even more. Yeah. Giving energy to the bad energy, building it up so then you can control it. So now you're making something stronger, you're trying to control it, and simultaneously you're making equal opposite reaction to make that grow also at the same time.
Why do you think people like who worry always get it worse?
Yeah.
You know? If you worry,
that was me growing up, and then you get the victim mentality, and it becomes a cyclical pattern that builds up and compounds on top of itself.
And it just trickles down.
Yeah,
but worrying, you're giving more value. You're putting more time into this thing that's bothering you. You know what I mean? Let it go. Like, as difficult as that sounds, and as easy as it may sound to, like, oh, just let it go. Yeah, it's not easy to let it go. But at the same time, it's what you should do. Oh, yeah. You know, like, if you want to get past it, that's what's required so that you can go ahead and find that positive outcome. You know, you got to think in that, just how you're saying, you got to think at that higher level to get that higher level result.
Absolutely. You know? And I think what you just said is how people go about life in a counterproductive way, because people have been conditioned through other things that adding things on and putting new stuff onto the original thing is how you actually grow, by building and gaining more. But with the human experience, how you elevate and enlighten yourself and raise up as an organism and as a consciousness, it's by letting stuff go. Right. It's by, you're basically like a bob in the ocean, and the more weight you let go, the higher it raises up in the water.
Not having to hold on to things. Yeah.
So and that's the biggest thing. But back to what I was saying with the subconscious, the human experience is very strange and very lucrative, because the subconscious can be influenced by things that are not you, and it can be it itself can take action and do things that are not even caused by yourself.
Yeah.
So you literally have something inside of your body that is being influenced, making decisions and causing you to do things that are taking input from things that aren't even you. It's like you're driving in a car, trying to keep it sturdy, and there's 12 hands pulling it one way, pulling it the other way, and you're like, fuck, I'm just trying to stay balanced and on course to my goals.
You know where that comes from?
Where?
And I love, this is why I wanted to talk to you so much too, because like this is where a lot of people don't really get this, but how we were talking about, like, we're mostly water, right? And water is the most conductive piece of, like, it's so conductive over anything else. There's this other book called The Four Agreements, right? I consider it a magic book where, you know, same thing with how we were talking about, like, someone else's opinion of you, if you don't have a good self-image, or if you don't have a self-image at all, it affects you. You know, just
it becomes
how you,
your self-image.
It becomes your self-image because you're not rooted into it.
So someone says, when you talk up, they said, "Don't talk, you're stupid."
Yeah.
Now you become a shy person.
You think that you're
because you didn't have a self-image before,
right?
And now your self-image is every time I speak up, someone tells me to shut up, which is painful to me. But continue.
If you like here, I think I'm awesome, right? Someone calls me like, "You're kind of weird." If I don't have a good rooted self-image, then I'm gonna start to think I'm weird.
You're fucking weird now. Yeah.
Exactly.
They said so now I'm weird. Fuck.
Because their words have energy, right?
Now you're
and
thinking,
because I'm water,
other people probably think I'm weird too.
Right. And because I'm water, like it's conducted to me unless I have a strong self-image,
which will undo that energy. Yeah.
Exactly. And to the same thing with here. One thing, and this is all science, by the way, like a lot of this stuff is backed up with actual science. You know what I mean? Like shit that's real.
Third dimensional earth science that everybody can understand.
Right.
Because other things in life are explained by sciences that are not understood by the human brain, because a solution to a problem cannot exist in the same plane as the problem. It has to transcend the problem by going over it. So like an example is a problem of space, like how to cover distance is 1 through 3, the spatial dimension, how you transcend space. Time. Time taken to go there. The 4th dimension, a plane above it. So there's an example right there.
Yeah. And then like, so what I was going through was our thoughts, right, have energy, right? Josh told us, and I searched it up too, that your thoughts have the same electro frequency as a cell phone, right? So when I realized that was true, and when I fact checked it, right, if that means that if I call someone on the other side of the world, right, even though I can't see this little fucking like wave going through like it's all around through the world, it's happening. There's proof. How? Because the other person answered. You know, there's no wire connecting us, but that wavelength put these two signals together to where I can understand and I can receive their message and they can receive mine, right? So if my thoughts have that same strength, then what is there to not believe that my thoughts can do the same thing?
Exactly.
Right? That my thoughts don't have power to them, and that they can control, or they can like do something in this external world.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And that's what you just said is a big. Everyone needs to rewind and. 10% right now.
We're still going,
everyone needs to rewind and listen to that again, because a lot of people in life.
Say it again for the people in the back.
They go off. They go off with their main 5 senses. Tell them you have more than 5, but you have main 5. So 60% of your brain is a visual cortex that perceives data from visual light. Visual light is less than 1% of the entire light scale.
Yeah.
Now paired with that, physical atoms. It's about 99.99% empty space.
Yeah.
So what you're perceiving visually is 1% of 0.001%.
Of what's actually going
literally on. I think it would be 0.00001. That's the percentage of things that you're going off of. And you're ignoring 99.9999% of what's actually happening. So faith is the ability to see the invisible. Just because something isn't visually perceivable by you doesn't mean it's not there.
Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not working.
Thoughts have forms, they have structures in planes that if you had the senses to perceive it, you would then believe, okay, it's actually there now. But you can have that knowledge and it can happen without the perception of it. Kind of like a dog whistle. The sound is happening.
Yeah.
But a human
You can't hear
cannot
it.
perceive it. It doesn't
Right.
mean it's not there.
Yeah.
It exists. The air is vibrating and that frequency is happening.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with thoughts. It's a frequency that you can't visually perceive, but it is absolutely there.
The air
and
is
thoughts
vibrating.
can build up into thought towers, which are called pendulums, and they can hook you and influence your mindset and the ways that you act. So you can feel, like we were talking about vibes earlier, the vibes of different places, people, and things. If you walk into like a yoga studio or like a meditation center, you're going to feel very warm and loved and protected and not judged or compared to other people.
Right, yeah.
But if you go to like
Because that's not what they're thinking about either.
but
yeah,
if you go to like a football game, you're gonna be very rowdy and want to scream and
it's
yell
all
and chant.
competitiveness, yeah.
And it's the energy of that space and the things around you. It's the things that are influencing you. And this all goes back to the subconscious brain, which is inside of you that can hold thoughts from other people. You can soak up thoughts from other people and other beings while you're in your sleep. Wake up and then start having those thoughts, and then your whole day becomes the thoughts of somebody else.
Of other people,
And now you're
right.
living the life that's not even true to you.
Right.
And you're wondering why you're so mentally fogged
You're
up.
all confused and
Yeah, you're all
shit, yeah.
confused. You don't know how you feel or what you should do or who you are, or how to go about things, because you're unaware of what your body is, what's actually happening to it, and how to neutrally observe the things that go inside of it and not control them.
Right.
Because when you have a bad thought, and when people learn about like the secret and law of attraction for the first time, they're like, I did this myself.
Yeah.
All good thoughts and no bad thoughts. The second that bad thought comes in, I'm going to control it, say fuck that shit, and I'm going to make it go away.
Right.
But now I'm putting so much importance on controlling that stuff and making it not in here, which brings more of it in the future.
Exactly.
Because everything has an equal opposite reaction. If you live in a thing where like, if you live in a life where you go about it and you say, I have to control my thoughts, then you're creating a reality where thoughts will need to be controlled.
Yeah.
So those negative thoughts will now come back more tenfold. You know?
Yeah, and I went through that. To be honest, you said that perfectly. I went through that myself too. You know, I went to the same thing where like, okay, all negative thoughts, I'm gonna stop them right here. Boom. And all that I started thinking about was just more negative shit. You know what I mean? And I'm like, fuck, where's all this coming from? I wasn't feeling this before. You know, so it's like, after some time, you just gotta let a lot of that stuff just go. You know what I mean? A practice I started doing, it's like I just started kind of asking this thought, like trying to talk to it, like, okay, where is this thought coming from?
Yeah.
Right. And then I would be able to answer myself, you know, because consciousness is very smart. You know, consciousness knows what it's doing. But if you kind of like pump the brakes and like say, look, where is this thought coming from? I'm like, oh, well, you're probably nervous because you don't know what could really happen. There's uncertainty in there. And so, like, if there's uncertainty, then, you know, this is one of the options. And you haven't experienced this kind of success before. So it's more likely that you're going to stay in here than you're going to reach that higher level, right? And then, so when I put into communication like that to myself, I'm like, okay. And I stop and I'm like, okay, I see how you came to that conclusion, but that's not the outcome that I want. So this time I'm going to try to hope for the best that this is what it's going to go for, mostly based off this data, mostly based off like what I've heard. And then whatever happens, happens. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
You know? So with that in mind, let's leave that alone. And this is me talking to my own consciousness. So with that in mind, let's leave that alone and let's just not think about it anymore. Let's focus on what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of like bring myself back to the present. Like, okay, where am I right now?
It's a big key, guys. Be present.
What am I doing? Right? And is anything crazy happening? No? Then let me just kind of enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I'll just kind of like, just in that way, it kind of alleviates a lot of like pressure and a lot of tension and a lot of stress. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just being able to, in a sense, kind of like be friends with your consciousness or your unconsciousness. Like, oh man, why are you thinking this way? Oh, because of this. Okay, well, cool. Let's not think of this that way. And just kind of like, you know, enjoy the moment, you know, but it also takes a long time to even get to that moment.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
It takes a long time to even, like, a lot of people, they'll try something for like a week or a month, and if they don't get it, they're like, okay, well, this is either fake or it doesn't work or something.
Right.
And that's completely not true. Everyone has their own journey, and it all comes together in divine timing. But like us being at the mindset to where we have the ability to analyze a thought that has come into our energy field, if you will, or our brain.
Being self-aware
of
what we're living.
And neutrally observing it and recognizing that nothing that comes into our space will be more powerful than us, because we control what our space is.
Our living,
and
our life.
Yeah, and we love ourselves, we think we're awesome, and we think that we are all powerful. And that's not a form of cockiness, because it's my belief that everybody comes from like a big vibrating ball of energy. You can call it source energy, God, the collective, whatever it is.
Whatever fits for you.
Yeah, whatever fits for you. But visually imagine a big vibrating ball of energy. And a little piece of it, a little tiny bubble gets flicked out, into the earth reality system. It has a little piece of the consciousness within it, but it's still attached by the string. And knowing that you are the omnipotent and most powerful consciousness in the universe, and you're connected to it because you're temporarily
keyword connected to it.
You're temporarily perceivably separated from it because you're in a separate body, but you're actually energetically connected to that same thing. And knowing that, it instills the mindset that nothing that I would perceive as negative that will or can come into my life can undo the good I've done or beat me or conquer me in some sense, because I am all powerful. That's like when I go into new things, like I'm not scared of like benevolent beings or what people label as demons or evil things like attaching to me. Like, try me. Let's go toe to toe.
Let's fucking go.
I am literally God.
And you're strong. You're strong with you. Yes.
So are you, because you're energy, and you're another version of me looking back at myself through your eyes.
Yes.
And even if you're a negative thing, either an astral being, a physical being, whatever, because I know love and above wins, the most powerful thing in the universe, and it literally vibrates above things like anger and deception and hurt.
At the highest,
You can't beat me. I'm literally vibrating at a higher frequency than you. I'm actually surprised you're even compatible enough for me to perceive you in my space, first of all. But don't get it twisted, because if you go toe-to-toe with me, it's not going to turn out well for you. Because you're trying to go toe-to-toe with God right now. Because that's me. And so are you, but you forgot it.
Because you're connected to it. Yes. And, oh, man, see, I really like how you put it there, because there's points in time when, like, we forget, and where faith comes a long way into it, right? Whether people want to put God into it or you want to put, I like to substitute sometimes the word universe, because I feel like it's more universal to anyone. People can kind of like swallow that a lot easier, but you're still connected to it. You're connected to this incredible vast source of just information, but energy, just abundantness, right? To where, why would you ever think that you're any lesser than that? You're here, you're living, you have this one life, and you can literally do anything with it, because you have the power of free will. You have the option to create this life however you want it to. So with that being in mind, like, understand that anything that really comes against you, it shouldn't be able to win unless like you really are messed up with your self-image. So it shouldn't beat you. It shouldn't ever like be stronger than you.
But it can if you're unaware.
It can if you're unaware.
Not awoken to your true power. That's why people say I'm woke, and it's not a cocky and ego thing. It's I understand what I am, and it is a fact that I understand what this is. Right.
And so you're aware of like what you're living through. You're aware that your consciousness and unconsciousness at the same time, So with that kind of strength and power, you can go ahead and like, I feel like it also comes to those that aren't looking for malice. You know what I mean? Like if you're looking for malice, or if you're like someone that's not genuinely of a good nature, it doesn't like follow you. You know what I mean? Because again, I think same thing with what you were saying with love. Like love is going to be at the highest vibration, and it's going to be by your side when you're trying to do good, So, I mean, man, like a lot of people, sometimes I feel like they don't understand that this is so real. You know what I mean? But this is the world that we're living in, and that's why I think like that's why I'm so grossly optimistic. I'm like, dude, it can fucking happen. Like this is real. Like no matter what goes through, like there's still a chance that my story is gonna end up well. Why? Because of me. Because I'm gonna do my best to work for it. You know what I mean? But I do still want to hear. I do want to hear about, like, tell me about your near-death experience.
Oh yeah, so basically, a lot of people say this can't happen, but too much of anything can kill you. Too much water can kill you. Hyperhydration, or hyperhidrosis, whatever it's called. But basically, I took maybe 4 grams of mushrooms. I've taken way more before.
Yeah.
But I was just, like I said, I was going to a rave, so I was searching into my external to fulfill my internal state. I was grinding out my entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I was doing no things that filled my cup during the day, and all things are for the business. So I had all drain and no fill.
And
So
that's real too.
So
like,
my cup
yeah.
was empty with a hole in the bottom, and the water was going in, but didn't even touch the glass. It was going straight through.
Straight through.
Straight through. So I went to a rave, and like I said, I've done much more before. But basically, if you have 2 separate 1 gram stems, one can be 10 times stronger than the next, and you can not even know it.
Yeah.
So let's say you get 4 of those ones that are 10 times stronger than the ones you're expected to.
Yeah.
That can happen as well.
Damn.
So that's basically what happened to me. So 10 minutes after I got to this place, I got this overwhelming feeling that I'm being watched right now, and things know that I'm here. And they know I'm not supposed to be here doing what I'm doing, and I kind of know I'm not supposed to be here doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Not that I'm hurting anyone or doing anything bad,
You're just
but I'm just not supposed to be
there.
here.
Yeah.
And I felt like I got in trouble at school, like I'm going to the principal's office or something. I'm like, what? Why do I feel so?
I kind of know what you mean.
I feel like I'm
out of place.
Very out of place.
Yeah.
Like it's just so wrong for me to be here. So I left after 10 minutes, ordered my Uber. Right when I pressed order and it was coming by, things went real sideways.
Yeah.
I was standing on the outside or on the sidewalk and trying to find the Uber, and I couldn't even see what cars were what type of cars.
Yeah.
I could see the shape of the car, but the light trails were so stretched and vast that I couldn't even tell. I just stood on the sidewalk in the corner, and I was like, maybe they'll see me and they'll come to me because
you're just kind of hoping.
I look kind of I have a kind of unique look. I'm like, maybe they'll see who I am. So I got it. Thank God I got in. I was like, drive me home. I told the address, or they should know it anyways from when I ordered.
Right.
So everything was good at that point.
Yeah.
And it was like 10 o'clock. Okay. So the event
it's not even that late.
The event had just started.
Yeah.
The mainliners aren't even on yet.
Damn.
So she was like, "Why are you leaving so early?" I'm like, "Oh, I forgot I have a business meeting tomorrow. I gotta go home and sleep extra." I totally forgot, so I'm going home early. Blah blah blah. 30 seconds later, I lift up. I start to feel hot. I lift up my arm, and water is pouring off of me like a faucet. It is raining off of me like a cartoon.
Crazy.
And I look down. I'm in a bath of my own sweat. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm melting like the Wicked Witch of the West right now. I'm literally a popsicle melting into a puddle. Yeah. And so I'm like, I open up the window, turn on the AC, I'm fucking dying.
Do you think that was you kind of tripping out, or was it
I wasn't even really I wasn't, I mean, I was tripping but because I've had so many different drug experiences before. I'm a hardcore raver, so it didn't scare me, or it wasn't out of whack. I was just like, okay, well, this is just intense, but I can just go home and I'll handle it. It's fine. Yeah. And then things just started getting way too weird because what happened to me happened the year prior to my friend at a festival called Base Canyon at the Gorge in Washington.
Heard of it, yes.
And it's a hill that's cut downwards to the mountain's edge. When she was overdosing, her hair started to fall out. She couldn't move her body. She lost complete control and was basically like a dead body. Yeah. So I had to carry her ass on my back from the middle of the mosh pit up, I'd probably say a 30 to 40 degree hill for the length of maybe 2 football fields to the severe medical tent where they got real doctors, real equipment, and they're people are real fucked up in there.
Right, yeah.
So
people are dying.
When I was carrying her up on the hill, my life was flashing in front of my eyes because I brought her there with me on my ticket, on my dime. Yeah. I sourced the mushrooms for both of us. We both took them, but she's about to fucking clock out. And that's on me. I would not have been able to live with myself. I probably would have offed myself, to be honest. Yeah. I would not have been able to live life that I was the cause of my friend's death in some way, even though they consciously chose to take those drugs. But they put 1 million IVs in her, fucking new blood in, bad blood out. She basically had blood poisoning from that stuff because it is a fungus.
Yeah, it's a blood transfusion. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically that paired with maybe low food content, so malnourished, super dehydrated, heat exhaustion, plus stress and panic and all that kind of stuff wrapped up into one can literally take such a toll on your body that you die in some way.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to me. I'd say 8 months later. Not to such a degree. Maybe my body's stronger. That's why my hair didn't fall out and I could still walk around.
Yeah.
But how she explained what she saw through the experience is what I saw.
Yeah.
And also, when we were in that severe medical tent, 2 beds over, I saw this chick die. And when she died and her soul left the room, everything went mute for like
Quiet,
2 seconds.
yeah.
Like, things were still moving and people were doing stuff and
But it was
talking.
just silent.
All the sound went just blank for like 2 whole seconds when because I was on shrooms too. So now that I have unlocked these extra sensory abilities, I sensed and felt her consciousness.
And that's so
leaving
real
her
too.
body.
Like, I hate it when people don't think that it's real. But
Man, it is
dude.
more real than you almost want it to be.
Yeah.
But so that happened to me the next year, and I'm in the car, and because I think a bad experience happened in that thing, or in that last part, it made me associate like getting in trouble if it happened to me, kind of. So I was like, fuck, is she gonna like take me, notice how fucked up I am and take me to the hospital, or to police or something?
Yeah.
So I was freaking out because I couldn't, her phone with the GPS is a foot in front of me, but I can't fucking read that.
You can't see it at all.
I can't see shit. So, and I'm like, as an Uber driver, you just follow the line.
Right.
It's easy.
Right.
But she starts tapping on it, doing stuff to it. I'm like, oh my God, is
shit.
she rerouting me right now?
Uh-huh.
And I literally can't even read what's happening. And
it's real quick to cut you off. Depending on who you're talking to, they can tell.
Yeah.
You know, some people can tell.
Yeah.
Some people like it could just be in your head, right?
Yeah, but some
like,
if they can
if they
tell.
knew, they know.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And basically, I was like, oh fuck. I'm like, if she stops, I'm getting out and I'm running.
Yeah.
And I'm not letting this be the end of me.
Yes.
No way. And I don't even know how I could have ran home. That would have been.
Your body's moving and shit.
I would have just like I don't know.
I don't know,
dude. I
Lex, please don't fail me now.
Like I could. The only thing I could perceive was like the stratosphere. That's the only thing I knew. Like that's the stratosphere.
Damn.
Everything else, I don't know what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
Everything's so stretched out and like crazy.
And the lights trip you out too.
Yeah,
like the lights really
the
fuck
trails
you up.
all
Yes.
connect and they go to both ends horizontally.
Right.
So when you have a million lights, like here in Las Vegas, the most light polluted city on the planet, it's
a fucking maze.
Good
yeah,
luck. Good luck. It's a
done.
maze.
Yeah.
You're a rat in the maze. So, we thank God she took me home. When I got out of the car, I like checked my pockets. I'm like, okay, we're good. Awesome, see ya. And it's fucking left.
Yeah, it's like you can't even talk anymore. Like, okay, bye.
Because the conversations we were having, I noticed that the timing of my words was not the correct time. So I sounded like somebody who had something going on with him.
Yeah.
Whether it was good or it was bad, something's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to hide it. And I felt like she could tell.
Yeah.
So I just shut my mouth and started dancing to the music and so just take me home, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Got home. Almost couldn't put the key in my keyhole to unlock my place. Took me like 3 to 5 minutes. It was horrible.
Yeah.
I got inside. I'm like, okay, I gotta ground myself. I gotta ground
dude.
myself to reality.
Yeah.
Make things more solid.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start laughing. Watch something funny so we can ignore this.
Right.
I put on like the show The Office.
Change your mental
I
state
put on
of
the show
mind.
The Office, but I looked at bloopers on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I've seen these blooper reels before. But when I watched them this time, it looked like how a sober person makes a shroom type video to explain to another sober person how shrooms look. So instead of seeing like one Michael Scott, I saw like one and then like 10 around him in a circle and it's like spinning and shit. I'm like, what the fucking fuck is happening right now?
Oh my God.
And then I shut the laptop. I'm like, okay, something's wrong.
You're like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, and then when that happened, the black smoke started peeking in from my peripherals. And I've seen this before because I've had a heart attack before when I was 19.
Okay.
And other things too. I've almost died so many times that I am not even confident I'm truly alive right now.
I'm gonna have you talk to my brother too.
Yeah,
like,
I could be.
He's had a near-death experience too.
I could be in some long, drawn-out DMT trip that makes me think I'm still alive, and I'm actually not. I almost drowned when I was 2 years old. I've had instances where I'm about to get into a car crash and I see it inches from my window, and I teleport across the street into a new reality. Quantum jumping. So like my consciousness has definitely died in different parallel realities, but I'm skipping from here to here. So maybe I am alive, who knows? Okay. What is alive? What's real, what's not real? Who's to say? Kind of thing. But basically, once the black smoke started coming in, I'm like, oh no, this is it. I gotta do something. Right. And I thought back to my friend. I'm like, okay, I gotta kind of mimic how she was healed. So I was like, I need nutrients because my body's depleted
Right,
of what it needs.
exactly, yes.
So I took my like pitcher of filtered water and I pour it, and it's literally going all over my face. I'm like a fish out of water. Like, give it to me. And I take shout out Nutrilite vitamins XX. I took a handful of those motherfuckers because they're water soluble and they dissolve like
You're
that.
like, I need this right now.
I need all the nutrients in the world right now. And I'm taking I need green stuff. I start eating celery. I stuck my hands in a jar of almond butter and just I need nutrients and food.
Protein, anything, like what the body needs right now, like put it in.
Yeah, and that stabilized me, but and also everything in my room was vibrating so hard to a point where if you hold like a cigarette near a window in a moving car and it flies out the window, there was smoke coming off of everything and flying in one direction. Like my whole environment was moving through space.
That's fucking
And I
crazy.
had like sacred geometry posters and symbols all over my walls.
Yeah.
They came off the walls and started
Just
like rainbow
dancing
LED,
around you.
and they were fucking spinning. I was in this vortex of like a hologram of a kaleidoscope of shapes and colors. And then I was looking at my bed and I had an Aaron Doughty meditation or video playing here, and also like some jazz music playing also. And
you were literally doing your best to bring
stay here.
Bring
and
yourself
then
back.
shout out Aaron Doughty. He's the guy who sort of kept me on my spiritual walk and actually enabled me to believe that these things were real and actually manifested these things. So shout out to him.
Yeah.
But the things he was talking about in his video was literally synced up with what I was experiencing.
Going through, yeah.
And every single thought, moment, and interaction from my entire life at one moment came to one singular line and just made sense completely. And I had this feeling that my purpose here in life had been served. And I learned the things about this life that I needed to already through my incarnation. And now I came to a fork in the road, like I was explaining earlier, where I can choose to either stay here or clock out eternally. Because I was going to the end of my life and back, boom, 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 over and over and over, like 100 times, seeing everything, all the experiences.
Yeah.
So it's like, you already know what's going to happen and what you're going to do. So there's no point of being here.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, if this is my choice, I'm going to choose to stay here and do more.
Yeah.
Create more positivity.
Right.
And also use what I've learned today in this experience.
Like you still want to be here. You still want to do more.
I can choose, and it's the easier way to go because when your body because my body was so weak, it wanted to sleep. And what happened to my friend, she was in the hospital bed, severe tent thing, and the doctor's like, it's okay now, like your blood pressure's stable, your oxygen's stable, you're okay, we're just gonna wait out, the rest of this bullshit so you can walk away. Yeah. And it's like, you can sleep and everything. She's like, no, if I sleep, I'm not coming back.
Yeah,
I'm not coming back.
That's so interesting how you know.
Yeah, like, and that's how I felt. I'm like, I know. If I go to bed right now, I am not waking up. Yeah. And even though everything in my being, physically, emotionally, mentally wants to do it, I choose no. Yeah. And when you make choices, positive or negative, it affects how reality reflects back at you. Because in that state, things how they visually appear to me, when you're on these substances, guys, you understand reality to a higher degree. And when you're in a sober state, there's less ability to perceive less data. Yeah. So when I was in that state, an enlightened state, an example was when I turn on the light, I can see the light fill up the room like liquid. I could see the birth and death of light waves. It wasn't just on or off. Yeah. It was an actual motion to it. I could see it refract and reflect and fill up the room like water. It was crazy. And then also on top of that,
you were moving pretty fast.
I can move my hand. There was a trail of my hand, so I was seeing all the parallel realities I was moving through and stuff like that. But I forget the point I was trying to make with this.
You were moving fast as fuck, bro. Like you were going through
vibrating
super fast.
And I brushed up to what I felt like what God was. Yeah. And I felt the size of me compared to the size of it. And also, but it wasn't a scary thing because I know that's what I am. Yeah. But like I said, I had the choice to be here, and when this is what I was getting to, visually, when I had more positive thoughts like I'm going to be okay, I'm going to continue on, this is just a few hours of bullshit, and tomorrow's going to be okay. Yeah. Things became more solid and sharp. And then when I had thoughts like, oh fuck, is this really it? Yeah. Things became very droopy, like an oil painting, and sad and depressed. And that's how things look. And that's how water molecules look when you say bad things to it. It looks like a droopy oil painting that melted. But when you say positive things to it, it tightens up and becomes more sharp like a snowflake. Yeah. And so that's what literally happened. So at that point, I'm like, okay, me being alive physically in this world has nothing to do with me breathing air, eating food, drinking water, my heart pumping, or my brain being on. It is all a choice. Yeah. Everything is a conscious choice.
Yeah.
You consciously choose to be alive at every point in your day. And there's, if you read Paramahansa Yogananda, Autobiography of a Yogi, one of his masters got the signal that it was his time to pass, so he consciously commanded his body to pass away. He said, I'm going to pass away tomorrow at this time, and he did.
That's so crazy.
And then he came back in his astral form too. Paramahansa Yogananda saw him, like touching him, clear as day.
Yeah.
Came back from the dead and was physically resonating in
there.
this reality because he chose to.
That's crazy.
Everything is a choice, and everything has the ability to do everything.
Yeah.
Infinite parallel realities exist simultaneously right next to each other.
Yeah.
So every variation of everything, if I move my hand from here over to here, you can chop that space up into zillions of itself, and that's a zillion different parallel realities.
I'll put it to you, I'll put it for simple terms for people. Frames per second. Right? You could put like 100 frames per second. It's gonna look like butter on the video, but if you like click it at different times, you'll see boom, 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 boom.
And every single parallel reality is a different vibrational frequency. It's like a code. I'll say it again. So every parallel reality is a different vibrational frequency, like a code.
Yeah.
So just a long string of numbers. There's an infinite number of numbers. So there's an infinite number of parallel realities with different frequencies.
Yeah.
Like
Multiverse.
The multiverse. If you had a radio that went from frequency 1 to
105,
a number that would have a billion digits in it, like whatever that would be, that's kind of how reality is. You can turn it to whatever you want. And whenever you're on that thing, that's the reality you're inside of. And that's where it sort of ties back into taking upon the role of the version of yourself that's already existing in the reality you're currently trying to create.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, you've now turned the dial to that radio station, and your body and your brain are in that reality. They're listening to that station.
They're in sync.
Just because that station maybe isn't perceivably heard by you and the volume's not up, it doesn't mean you have not turned to it yet. Now that you're on it, the volume will slowly start to raise as you're longer on, as the more time you resonate with that channel.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you're on borrowed time, or do you feel like you're right back where you started?
I don't think I'm on either. I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Okay. That's crazy. So do you feel like you needed to go through that, or that was
absolutely.
That was in your cards?
Absolutely, because I've always known about myself that in order for me to learn something very significant, the experience has to be
extreme,
the most visceral thing you could ever imagine. I literally had to walk along the edge line of death just to understand the fact of stop going into your external world to fulfill yourself when all of the power is within. And that's such an elementary thing to know.
Yeah.
And others,
but we forget too.
We forget it.
Because especially when we're sober, just like how you were saying, like when you're in that state, you're just vibrating so high. You're just and so fast. We're like, you're so sensitive to things, but you pay more attention, like when you're sober, you just forget such elementary things. We're like, oh yeah, my life is what I make of it. You say that now. You say that when you're like in this like, kind of, I like to call it like a semi-numb state. But you say that when you're tripping, right? When you're like you're just super, super high up, it means something. You really understand like you're right or I'm right. Like my life is what I make of it. So this gives me the opportunity to make it how I want it to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But shit, dude. Fuck yeah.
Okay. And lastly, when my experience finally came to a close and I realized, okay, the option of clocking out is no longer there, and my choice for being alive has now been selected, and I'm actually here still. I looked at the clock and it was 12:09. Yeah. And I've never been a numerology guy, but I looked it up and it's an angel number, and what it means is you're now ready to begin your divine purpose. Yeah. Because after that experience, me as a person, I've now become like night and day. So like the only things that mattered to me and that what I thought about when I was in my death experience was, what impact did I make when I was here? So that's my character.
Right.
And
okay.
then who has love for me? Do they love me? And have I loved them in return properly? So love and character are the only two things that I believe matter in this world. So things like going to events, popularity, materialism,
they don't matter
achievement
anymore.
in some areas, it doesn't even exist. It's so not real. Like physical materialism is so not real. Like we said, guys, 0.00001% is what you're physically, visually looking at. Gucci belts, Lamborghinis, big houses, flashy things. It's 99.9999% not important and not real. It literally almost does not exist.
Doesn't matter.
So when you know these things, and you know that the biggest part of yourself, the entire majority of your energy, is vibrating and existing in a higher plane of existence, and this is a small portion of you. Also, your earth life is a small drop in the bucket of what you perceive as time. You understand that the things that matter to your human experience in your earth body aren't things that you should be focusing on and giving energy to, like materialism and popularity and Instagram followers and clout and
all this external,
all this the sex, drugs, and rock and roll of life, because those are just human distractions we've created for ourselves to skew us from our spiritual pathway, because we are spiritual beings, but we're living a physical experience, because we need physical things to happen, but over focusing on things that are physical is missing the point of why you sent yourself here.
And why you're here.
And why you sent yourself here was to learn spiritual lessons from a physical experience, not learn physical lessons through like a spiritual experience kind of a thing.
I think that's why it follows. Like I used to say, when people say like, oh, you can't take that with you, you can't take the material with you. It's super true, right?
Put my money in the grave.
And I always thought, like, you know what, but you know what you can take with you? You take home. You take with you your memories. You take with you your lessons. You take with you like that love that you have for others.
And also you leave
or that
your
you
love
felt
here.
from others. Yeah.
Also, I saw this on the Midnight Gospel. It's a funny show on Netflix.
Love that show.
Love that show. The very last episode where I think he's speaking with his mom, and she was talking about when she leaves physically, her love is still physically here. Her body is dead, and her consciousness left. But the energy, the physical energy that you can measure electromagnetically still exists in this physical plane.
Because you still get that feeling.
That's why when you feel like someone's next to you or someone's walking over you or watching over you, it's true. Just because you can't see the energy, it doesn't mean there's not there. You could just think of like gamma rays, X-rays, infrared. These aren't made up things. You know they're real.
And
you can't see them.
it,
and
right?
you know
but
you can't see it, but you believe in them.
And it's working.
So why don't you believe in other things that are invisible?
Just because it sounds cliche, or just because it doesn't sound like it sounds a little cheesy, that the fact that you feel love, you do feel it. You feel it when, especially.
But I think like things like this, not to cut you off, but things that people can't see that are real, that people want to believe in, a lot of people don't, because other things that people cannot see that are not real are projected to you that they are. And that's what trips people up. Like I was raised, not to bash religion, but I was raised in a Catholic family household, and it's never resonated with me at all. I'm a rebel at heart. I ask questions, and when you ask questions in a system like that, you find out the truth, and you find out that the truth is not what's been told to you. And I left the church when I was like 8 years old. I literally asked a priest. I already knew this was a rhetorical question. But I was 8 years old in this thing called CCD. It's religious ed. I went to once a week. And I asked the priest, is the story of Adam and Eve real? And he just straight up said no. It wasn't even hard to answer. He was like, no,
you didn't have to.
It's not. No. I'm like, okay, what the fuck's going on? Why am I here? What is this? Why are you telling me that it is? And I think belief is great, but asking questions is better. Having educated faith in things that faith is the ability to see the invisible, so it doesn't have to be about things that haven't happened yet. You like the guy who ran the first 4-minute mile, he had faith he could do it. And then after he did it, like 18,000 people have done it. Like high school kids have done it. But just because something has been done before, it doesn't mean it can't happen. But also at the same time, you also have to, that's the trick, because some things that are invisible are real and some aren't real. But they're invisible, so
invisible to the physical but
being,
it's,
and you're in a physical
it's feeling,
being.
yeah.
It's feeling.
You can still feel that.
Yeah.
And here, just to real quick, if you want to add more like truth to it, or if you want to like get some kind of proof, when you're feeling something, it does affect your physical.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
let's say you're feeling scared, or let's say you're feeling like that. We feel the chills. You know what I mean? When you're feeling something, when you're like really like either in love, you get those butterflies. When you're like nervous, you start sweating. You know, it affects you physically.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And these are all actual feelings. You don't see it. You don't you actually see like your different state like change. But your body changes with it. You know, your body changes according to it. Not just that, but like when we cry, the tear molecules, like the water is different when you're sad than when you're happy. Like tears of joy look different through the spectrum than tears of sadness. You know what I mean?
And a little side note, they actually have endorphins in them, which makes you feel better. So crying actually makes you feel better in the end.
My mom used to tell me,
instead of holding it in.
My mom used to tell me that crying was the way that the soul cleanses itself. And
it's purging. It's purging pain. And if you don't purge it, it stays inside of you and goes to your shadow self.
It starts to paint.
It goes into the shadow world. And if you don't do shadow work and bring it back out, things that affected you when you were a kid will subconsciously affect you forever.
And start to rise up.
They'll start taking you over.
Crazy,
and you're like, why am I so in such a victim mentality? Well, that's because...
Or why don't things ever work out for me?
It's because something didn't work out for you the way you expected it to. You had an expectation when you were in 5th grade, and it didn't happen the way you want to. And now ever since then, you've had this notion and reference experience that says, when I give up my all in this area, bad things happen. So now it makes me not want to go after things.
And that's what you're used to expecting now. And so you just kind of like follow that story.
The whole
Exactly.
And you live along the story you tell yourself. So how you create new manifestations, guys, and create a new reality that you're trying to live in, you cannot go off of things you've already experienced. You have to go into everything with a new childlike wonder, no expectations. Like everything, like, oh my God, I woke up. This is amazing. Oh my God, the air is filling me up and energizing me. This water is great. Showering, I feel like fresh and great. I get to brush my teeth. This is fucking awesome. I feel in like the mundane things. And now because you're going upon these things with a new childlike wonder, new things will now happen, and it's going to happen in a way you don't expect, because an expectation is pulling from reference experience. So that's why in this year I've been doing the most random things I could. Everything that's presented to me, yes. Road trip, yes. New business project, yes. Meet this person, yes. Have a
no
meeting,
expectations.
Yes. No expectations. And now I'm connected with people that are like making moves that are astronomical.
And you never would have thought.
I never would have thought I would have been, but because I take upon the same energy of them, because like energy attracts like energy. I think your phone might have died.
Whatever.
But if you're taking upon that role of yourself that doesn't exist yet, but you can discard that rule and just say, I'm going to exist as that person before it even happens, now you're going to start attracting other people that are like that. So if you say, I'm a fucking billionaire, I'm going to walk, talk, and act like it, and no one can tell me differently, even if you're making, $3,000 a month, then those people who are making billions of dollars, they're going to notice you. They're energetically going to be drawn to you. That's how that's literally how reality works. Like energy attracts like energy.
And you're going to eventually come across more people that are just how you want to be.
Exactly.
Or at that stage that you want to be.
Everything is a divine reflection of yourself or some part of it. So, and this is a funny thing that trips people up and trips me up all the time. Like right now, when I wake up basically like 10 out of 10 positivity every day, I vibrate love and above, and everything I do is to help the collective and also myself in turn through those things. When I meet people that are the opposite, it confuses me. Like, how the hell did I attract this person into my life? Like, why am I dating this person?
And
they're
think
a piece of garbage.
And
they're a trash person. What is happening right now? I'm not what? And you're like, what am I doing that's wrong?
Like, we are not the same.
You're
like, definitely, and I don't want you.
What am I doing that's wrong? Like, how?
Did you invade my space?
But everything, life happens for you. It's a lesson to teach you something about yourself, to elevate you for the next person. So that's how I like to sort of label it. I like to say that God sends you bad people to train you for the good people, and to help your skill sets in order to handle the things that you're going to handle.
Yeah.
Because if you don't make mistakes and you don't go through trials and tribulations and failures through life, you don't learn, because that's how you learn most of your lessons, if not the most significant ones, through the failures and the hardships.
Right.
And if you don't learn those things, you're not even prepared for your most optimal, what you call your high vibe tribe or your friend circle or your significant other.
Yeah.
You're just not ready yet because you're not up to that state. And how you get up to that state is going through the fucking mud of life.
Right. And like just how you said, I remember this quote that said like, there's this guy that's he talks to God and he said like, God, why do you put me through these rough waters? And he said, because your enemies can't swim.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like, you can think of it, I thought of it, not enemies as physical, like people coming at you, but enemies as like the old you.
Yeah.
Like your
yourself.
fears, your like old personalities, your angers, all these negative like pieces of you.
Yeah.
They can't get through these rough waters because they're too weak, And in order for you to get to that better side, you have to really push through these rough waters, the bullshit.
And that goes back to what you just said like 5 minutes ago, how emotional things can transform into physical things or manifest physical things, like problems in the body. Like I'm a massage therapist too, so like I know that
motherfucker does everything.
I know that like injuries and like tight muscles can be caused by emotional stress. That's why almost everybody's back of their neck is tight as fuck.
Yeah.
Because they're stressed out by job stress.
Yeah.
And that's why when you have heartbreak or someone cheats on you, you get that nervous anger, revenge feeling in your heart that sinks you down.
Yeah.
And you feel it bubbling and hot.
Yeah.
And you just want to go into rage mode and like just fucking King Kong on motherfuckers and start
people,
ripping down buildings.
Yeah.
So
because hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone's ever hurting you, it means they're hurting way more inside from something else.
Yeah.
So that's why if someone's trying to hurt you, the highest path to walk is recognizing that they need help.
Yeah.
And they've come to you for help, but they don't even know it yet.
They don't know how, and they don't know how to communicate it either.
And also, everything that you experience is a divine reflection of yourself. So, like, for instance, like my last relationship, horrible person to be with, never showed appreciation, always doing stuff behind my back, and just kind of not being a good person. So what that taught me was that myself, I was settling in areas of my life, and I happened to settle for that person, which caused me to stay with them for longer than I should have.
Right.
And and other reasons too. But it was a divine reflection of myself. That horrible trash person reflected back to me that there's garbage inside myself that I need to clear out. And that garbage was...
And you weren't ready to let that go.
Yeah, and I wasn't ready to let it go. It took a very long time. That's why I do not judge people for the craziness that they go through in their relationships.
Same.
Because it is so beyond the realm of logic. Reason, which is logic, resonates from 400 to 499, and love starts at 500. So things in a relationship, in order to make it work, don't make sense logically.
Right.
Because it's that solution to those problems transcend the problems. The problems is with logic, but how you transcend it and get the solution is through love, which is not going to make sense logically. So that's why people who are very scientific and overly analytical and all about that stuff, they don't believe stuff like this.
And it's hard for them to find love
because they don't
too.
Understand that there's things that can be more powerful than third-dimensional factual information, because the facts of this dimension they don't synchronize with the facts of other dimensions. They're different. Ding.
Right.
But yeah, it's like I said, everything's a divine reflection. So if like people are coming to your life that are bad, or you perceive them as bad, it's to show you something about yourself that you can fix.
Right.
And
it is a small reflection of yourself.
It's a small reflection, and you don't have to let that person play such a significant role in your life. They can just be an extra for a scene or two. But if you let that person
they're
play
there for a reason.
Yeah, they're there for a reason.
And they can be there for a season.
You need to let them speak their lines, so then the movie makes sense. But if you keep pushing that character down and not letting them speak their lines, they still have to speak their lines. They're on contract. They have a part in the movie, and they're going to play it at some time.
Yeah.
So the longer you wait for them to make that scene and say their lines, the longer it is for you to finish the movie.
Yeah.
In which finishing the movie is coming closer to enlightenment, or God, if you will, and being and taking on the true potential and optimal version of yourself.
Of ourselves.
Yeah.
And it takes personal responsibility to go ahead and like kind of play the part to what I would say, have that conversation, right? And make it happen. If you, like how you kind of said, like you knew that person wasn't right for you, you weren't ready to let go, right? It takes our personal responsibility, like, you know what, I'm tired of this, or you know what, it's time for a change. This hasn't been working out, and I've been knowing about this, right? I'm finally going to do something about it. And it's tough too. Like here, I have a lot of empathy when people go ahead and make that leap. I get it. It took me a long time to go ahead and make certain leaps on my own that were scary, and that it caused me and it forced me to go ahead and have certain conversations with people and with myself, you know, that were tough. They're tough conversations to have that it's easier to avoid it. You know, it's easier to just kind of ignore the conversation or ignore the elephant in the room, the problem, and just like, you know, continue playing around through life, you know. But if you really want to be this higher self of yours, you know, that higher self is going to confront their problem or their situation, whatever it is, head on, because that's what a responsible person does. You know.
And also, it's my belief that the things that we're going through are things that we've chosen for ourselves at a higher level, and it's all purposeful. And so just because, and also throughout my last relationship, I tried to mentor this person, because I knew, because at that point now I know how to mentor people. Because I've had an e-commerce team of 25, 30 people, mentoring them and how to be the best version of themselves. And I have a YouTube channel where I speak about manifestation, law of attraction, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I can handle it. This would be an easy case for me. But you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. You can lead a person to knowledge, you can't make them think.
You can you can pull a rope, but you can't push it.
You can give people all the help in the world, but if they don't want help, they won't get help. They're not going to get it. It's going right over their head. So that was another lesson I learned. And also through things I heard from other friends. I always, because I'm very optimistic and I'm an empath, I'm a super empath. People love unloading their baggage on me, and I fucking love it. Give me all that shit.
Give me all that shit.
But also,
I can handle it.
It also makes me very optimistic, because I want people to be the best versions of themselves, and everybody can be amazing. And I see that in everybody, but not everybody sees that in themselves. So when I see it, but they don't, and I try to help them, I learned through my last relationship that is now wasted effort and wasted time. Because I tried to mentor her into be a better version of herself and let go of the things that don't serve her anymore. But she didn't want help. She said she did, but she didn't really want help, because she's still doing the same bullshit she is today, you know, in her own single life. So she's exactly where she was last year as she is today. No growth, zero growth. That was settling. It was me trying to help people that don't want help and settling.
If people want it, they'll come to us, and that took me a long time to also like kind of come to terms with, you know, like same thing. I would want to save the world. You know, I would have moments, especially when I was younger, that like I felt so much sadness, like I would cry over the world, you know. And I'm like,
dude, me too. Like kids in Africa, I'm like, fuck,
dude.
I'm 6 years old. How do I help?
Same thing with the ocean.
Can I send you my can of SpaghettiOs in the mail or something? Like, fuck.
And you just have, especially being an empath, like you just hold so much weight of the world on your shoulders. But it's like it's not your responsibility to do that.
It's not at all.
But it
you can.
It does feel like it is. But we can do our part by making sure that we're good, and then doing like a little bit at a time. You don't have to eat the whole elephant with one bite, but you know, little pieces, and just make sure that this choice that you're making, it's one that you want to stick to. You know what I mean? But shit, dude, we're at like 1 hour and 45 minutes. How do you like this so far?
I keep going forever.
This was dope, right?
This is pretty good. Coming up soon, so.
Yeah, no, but I know I got another person. We're gonna wrap it up. Damn, bro, thank you a lot for being here, because this shit was, how do I even describe it? Like, some people need to hear this. And I feel like, even though these are definitely conversations that not everyone can swallow, but it's so true. You know,
the more they happen, I think it'll be easier for people to swallow. Because people like doing what other people are doing if it's the right thing to do. And if other people are having complex, in-depth conversations like we're having today, that when we leave it, we're now both better versions of ourselves because of it. And other people see that, they're going to want to have those conversations too. And even if those kinds of conversations scare them, they know it's the right thing to do. So they're now going to take action to go after it.
If there's a little bit of anxiety that you start to feel, thinking that like, oh my God, I am this like immense creature of energy that can literally create and morph their life however they want to. If you're feeling that ever at some point, like, just know that you're actually really on the right path.
Yeah.
That anxiety is kind of like a little bit of an indicator letting you know, yeah, it's true. You know, yes, you're all energy, and yes, you really can create the world how you want it to. It won't happen instantly, but it does happen one bit of a time.
Yeah.
Shit, man.
Let's do this again, dude.
I'm fucking down, dude. I'm fucking down, dude. If you want people to follow you, where can they find you?
So YouTube, NRG, synchronized, kind of like energy, but NRG, just the letters, synchronized. Also have an Instagram that pairs with that. Mm-hmm. That's where I make my law of attraction and spiritual things, and I make long-form videos about the things we've spoken about today and also other topics. Mm-hmm. My main Instagram is energy_creature. Other than that, pay attention to MBC online. It's Mediographer Beach Club. We got Instagrams and YouTubes and Facebooks and all that stuff. We're doing private events and cool things here in Vegas. So if you're in Vegas, you want to get things popping, hit us up.
Hell yeah.
Other than that, I just want to leave just with the platinum rule, guys. Treat other people better than you want to be treated, because they're just another broken off piece of energy from the collective source of energy, which is where you come from. Mm-hmm. So literally every other person is another piece of you.
They're part of you.
Yeah. And scientifically proven, all points in space and time are connected. So just because that person isn't right next to you, it doesn't mean you don't have to treat them with the kind of respect and love that you would if they were right next to you.
Yeah.
So vibrate love and above. Love wins all battles, and if you're loving in the end, you're walking the higher path, and I think you're doing the right thing.
That's it. That's awesome. That's fucking awesome. All right, you guys, if you like this, share it, tag us, tag Energy Creature, tag at the BreakTime Podcast, or the easy way, whichever one you want. Let everybody know, your friend, your mom, your sister, your brother, your boys, your dads, like fucking anybody, your teacher, like the fucking girl that you have a crush on. Whoever, you know.
Yeah, let them know.
Like, we're out here whispering sweet, sweet nothings in your ear.
And meditate more, people. Meditation
hell
is
yeah,
the key.
meditate a little bit more.
Meditation is the key to unlocking yourself.
Food for your soul, man. But, all right, that was it. And we're fucking out.
Woo.
All right, peace out, y'all.